The rain-slicked streets of Manhattan gleamed under the sodium lamps as Beth Harper stepped out of the courthouse, her heels clicking like accusations against the pavement. At 42, she had built a fortress of case files and closing arguments, each victory a brick in the wall that kept the world at bay. But tonight, that wall cracked with the weight of a single glance across the crowded bar. Kate Riley, 28 and all fire in her faded jeans and oversized sweater, leaned against the polished oak counter, her laugh cutting through the din like a melody Beth had forgotten she craved, pulling her in before she could remind herself of the years between them. Beth paused at the threshold of the dimly lit lounge, the door swinging shut behind her with a whisper that echoed her hesitation. She had come here to unwind after the trial, not to unravel. The air was thick with the scent of aged whiskey and murmured secrets. Patrons huddled in booths like conspirators. Kate turned then, her dark eyes catching Beth's across the room. And in that instant, the lawyer felt exposed. As if her meticulously tailored suit could not shield her from the raw curiosity in that younger woman's stare. A sigh escaped Beth's lips, soft and involuntary, the first fracture in her composure since the gavel fell. She ordered a scotch, neat, and settled onto a stool 2 seats away, pretending to scroll through emails on her phone. But the pull was magnetic, inexorable. Kate shifted, her elbow brushing the bar as she angled toward her. "Rough day in the trenches?" she asked, her voice carrying the lilt of someone who had grown up chasing stories in Chicago before landing in the city that chewed up dreamers. Beth looked up, meeting those eyes again, green flecked with gold, and felt a warmth spread through her chest, unwelcome yet insistent. "You could say that," Beth replied, her tone measured, the words tasting like surrender. They talked, halting at first, words tumbling like raindrops against a windowpane. Kate was a freelance journalist, scraping by on pitches to underpaying editors, her notebook always tucked in her back pocket like a talisman. She spoke of a recent piece on urban isolation, how the skyscrapers amplified loneliness rather than drowned it out. Beth listened, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass, surprised by the ease with which this stranger peeled back layers she had long buried. There was a pause, heavy with unspoken questions, and Kate filled it with a question of her own. "What about you? What's the story behind the suit and the stare that says you've seen too much?" Beth hesitated, her breath catching. She thought of the empty apartment waiting for her uptown, the queen-sized bed that swallowed her whole each night. "Corporate law," she said finally. The words clipped. "Mergers? Acquisitions. The kind of battles where no one bleeds, but everyone loses something." Kate nodded, her expression softening. And in that nod, Beth saw a mirror of her own quiet ache. The bar faded around them, the clink of glasses receding as their conversation deepened, weaving through favorite books and forgotten dreams. Beth mentioned a dog-eared copy of The Bell Jar on her nightstand, a relic from college, and Kate's eyes lit up. "Sylvia Plath gets me through the dry spells," she confessed, leaning closer, her knee brushing Beth's under the bar. The contact was electric, a spark that made Beth pull back slightly, her heart stuttering. She was twice divorced, both times from men who had mistaken her ambition for indifference. And the women in between had been fleeting shadows, never this vivid. Kate was younger, unscarred by the decades Beth carried like invisible chains. Yet there was no artifice in her, no calculated charm, just a genuine hunger for connection that mirrored Beth's own buried longing. As the bartender called last call, Kate scribbled her number on a napkin, her handwriting looping in bold. "In case you want to talk more about Plath. Or whatever comes after." Beth took the napkin, folding it into her pocket like a secret. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the air crisp and alive. She watched Kate disappear into the subway entrance, her figure swallowed by the stairs, and felt the night's pull linger, a question mark etched into her skin. Back in her apartment, the city lights flickered through the blinds as Beth lay awake, the napkin clutched in her hand. She traced the numbers, debating, until the clock ticked past 2. Her thumb hovered over the call button. Then pressed. "It's Beth," she said when Kate answered. Voice husky with sleep. "Tell me more about those dry spells." Their first real meeting was the next afternoon in Central Park. Under a sky the color of faded denim. Beth arrived early. Her briefcase left at the office. Dressed in slacks and a silk blouse that felt too vulnerable without the armor of her suit. Kate was already there. Sprawled on a blanket with a thermos of coffee and a stack of notebooks. Her hair tied back in a loose ponytail that let strands escape like afterthoughts. "You came," Kate said. Her smile tentative. As if she had braced for absence. Beth sat beside her. The grass cool against her palms. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to simply be. Without agenda or endpoint. They walked the paths lined with autumn leaves crunching underfoot. The air carrying the faint spice of pretzels from vendors. Kate pointed out a squirrel hoarding acorns. Likening it to her own frantic pitching schedule. And Beth laughed. A sound foreign to her own ears. There were pauses. Natural breaths where the wind rustled the branches. And in those silences, their glances lingered longer. Beth felt the age gap like a shadow. 14 years that whispered doubts. But Kate's hand brushed hers as they paused by the Bethesda fountain. And neither pulled away. "This place," Kate murmured. "It's like the city forgets to be cruel for a minute." Beth nodded. Her throat tight. The truth of it settling deep. As dusk crept in, painting the sky in hues of lavender and gold, they found a bench overlooking the lake. Kate pulled out her notebook. Reading aloud a fragment of an unfinished article on lost connections in the digital age. Her voice wove through the fading light. Raw and unpolished. And Beth listened. Entranced. Seeing in the words echoes of her own isolation. When Kate finished, she looked up. Vulnerable. "It's terrible. Isn't it?" Beth shook her head. Her hand finding Kate's. Fingers intertwining with a gentleness that belied the storm inside her. "It's honest," she whispered. And in that word, something shifted. A door creaking open to possibilities long locked away. That evening, they parted with a hug that lingered. Kate's cheek warm against Beth's. Alone in the cab ride home, Beth replayed the moments. Her mind a whirl of what-ifs. The prejudice of time. Of societal scripts that deemed such bonds improper. Gnawed at her edges. She had clients who sneered at alternative lifestyles, boardrooms where whispers followed her solitary status. Yet Kate's laugh echoed. Chasing the shadows. Sleep came fitfully. Dreams tangled with green eyes and the scent of coffee. Days blurred into weeks. Their rhythm sinking like an unspoken pact. Coffee at a corner cafe in Greenwich Village. Where Kate dissected the latest scandal and Beth shared war stories from depositions. Evenings at Beth's high-rise. Overlooking the Hudson. Where they cooked pasta from scratch. Wine glasses clinking as stories flowed. Kate's youth brought levity. Her impulsive detours to street art or midnight ice cream runs pulling Beth from her routines. But beneath the ease, tension simmered. Beth caught herself in mirrors. Tracing the fine lines around her eyes. Wondering if Kate saw them as barriers. One crisp October night. After a gallery opening in Soho where Kate's enthusiasm lit the room. They walked arm in arm through the thrumming streets. The air buzzed with possibility. Neon signs reflecting in puddles. Kate stopped under an awning. Turning to Beth with an intensity that stole her breath. "I keep waiting for you to pull back," she said softly. Her fingers tracing Beth's jaw. "Like this is too much. Too fast." Beth's heart ached. The truth spilling out in a rush. "It's not the speed. It's me. The years I've got on you. The life I've half lived. People will talk." Kate's eyes searched hers. Fierce. "Let them. This feels right." And then, in the shadow of the city that never slept, their lips met. Tentative at first, then deepening with the hunger of withheld breaths. The kiss shattered something in Beth. A dam breaking to flood her with sensation. Kate tasted of Merlot and mint. Her hands framing Beth's face as if she were fragile porcelain. They broke apart gasping. Foreheads pressed together. The world narrowing to the space between them. Laughter bubbled up. Nervous and real. And they stumbled into a nearby cab. Hands clasped tight. At Beth's door. The elevator ride was charged silence. Punctuated by stolen glances. Inside. The apartment enveloped them in soft lamplight. And they moved as one. Shedding layers both literal and figurative. Their bodies spoke what words could not. A dance of rediscovery. Beth marveled at Kate's skin. Smooth and unmarked by time's relentless march. While Kate traced the map of scars on Beth's soul with reverent touches. Sighs mingled with whispers. The night unfolding in waves of tenderness and fire. Afterward. Tangled in sheets. Kate's head on Beth's chest. The older woman felt a peace she had not known since girlhood. But dawn brought clarity. And with it? The first whisper of doubt. As Kate slept. Beth stared at the ceiling. The city's hum a distant roar. Wondering if this blaze could withstand the cold light of day. Morning light filtered through the curtains. Casting golden stripes across the bed where Kate stirred. Her arm draping over Beth's waist like an anchor. Beth lay still. Savoring the weight. The steady rise and fall of Kate's breathing against her side. It was a Saturday. Rare and unclaimed. And for a moment, she allowed herself to imagine this as routine. Not exception. But the phone buzzed on the nightstand. A client's name flashing. Yanking her back to the orbit of deadlines and expectations. She silenced it. Slipping from the bed with a quiet exhale. Padding to the kitchen to brew coffee. Kate appeared moments later. Hair tousled. Wearing one of Beth's button-downs that hung loose on her frame. Sneaking away already, she teased. Voice thick with sleep. But her eyes held a flicker of uncertainty. Beth handed her a mug. Their fingers brushing in that now familiar spark. Just thinking, Beth said. Leaning against the counter. The cool marble grounding her. They sipped in companionable quiet. The aroma mingling with the faint salt of the river beyond the windows. Kate set her mug down. Stepping closer. About us? The question hung. Simple yet loaded. And Beth nodded. Pulling her into an embrace that said more than words could. They spent the day wandering Brooklyn. Crossing the bridge on foot. The East River glittering below like shattered glass. Kate chattered about a pitch for a series on queer history in the boroughs. Her passion infectious. Hands gesturing wildly. Beth listened. Contributing anecdotes from her own closeted college days. The fear that had kept her silent. At a flea market in Dumbo. Kate haggled over a vintage typewriter. Her laughter drawing stares. And Beth felt a swell of pride. Mingled with the sharp pang of protectiveness. An older couple nearby muttered something about inappropriate displays, their eyes narrowing. And Beth's jaw tightened. Her hand squeezing Kate's in silent defiance. Lunch was falafel from a truck. Eaten on a warehouse stoop. Grease staining fingers as they people watched. Kate wiped a smear from Beth's chin. Her touch lingering. And the lawyer's pulse quickened. You're good at this, Kate said suddenly. Her tone earnest. Making the ordinary feel like adventure. Beth shrugged. Deflecting with a smile. But inside. Gratitude bloomed. She had spent years in sterile conference rooms. Negotiating power plays. Forgetting the thrill of unscripted joy. Yet as the sun dipped. Casting long shadows. A call from her ex-husband intruded. His voice laced with concern over their shared friend's gossip. Beth. There's talk. About you and some girl. Be careful. The words landed like stones in still water. Rippling through her calm. She ended the call abruptly. But the damage lingered. A chill settling in her bones. Kate noticed. Of course. Her intuition sharp as a headline. Everything okay? They were in a cab back to Manhattan. Traffic crawling. Horns blaring like accusations. Beth hesitated. Then shared the essence. Omitting the sting. Kate's face hardened. Not in anger. But resolve. Screw the talk. We're not their story. She kissed Beth fiercely then. Right there in the back seat. A claim staked against the invisible jury. That night? Over takeout Thai in Beth's living room. The conversation turned deeper, probing the fault lines. Kate spoke of her own scars. A conservative family in the Midwest that had disowned her after college. The freelance grind that left her questioning her worth. I pitch pieces on resilience. But some days, I feel like I'm faking it. Her voice cracked. And Beth pulled her close, stroking her hair. The vulnerability a bridge between them. You're not faking, Beth murmured. Her own confessions following. The loneliness of climbing the ladder alone. The affairs that had left her hollow. Tears came then. Silent tracks down Kate's cheeks. Absorbed into Beth's shirt. In the quiet aftermath. They made love again. Slower this time. Bodies mapping each other's rhythms with deliberate care. Kate's sighs were breaths of release. Beth's touches laced with apology for the world's harsh edges. Sleep claimed them entwined. But Beth woke to nightmares of courtrooms where judges pronounced their union invalid. The gavel echoing like thunder. She slipped out to the balcony. The city sprawl a glittering indictment. And lit a rare cigarette. The smoke curling like doubts. Kate found her there. Wrapping a blanket around them both. We face it together, she whispered. And Beth leaned into her. Drawing strength from the solidity. The following weeks tested that vow. Beth's firm landed a high-profile merger. Demanding 80-hour stretches that left her exhausted. Arriving home to Kate's patient smiles and reheated dinners. Kate, meanwhile, scored a byline in a progressive mag. Celebrating with rooftop champagne. But the piece drew trolls online. Slinging slurs about her lifestyle choices. They vented over late-night calls when schedules clashed. Voices strained but clinging. One evening, after a particularly brutal deposition, Beth collapsed on the couch. Kate curling beside her. I feel like I'm dragging you into my mess, Beth admitted. Her breath hitching. Kate shook her head. Fierce. This is our mess now. And I wouldn't trade it. Thanksgiving loomed. A minefield of family obligations. Beth's sister invited her to the suburbs. A gathering of polished normals where she would be the odd one out. Especially now. Kate's plans were solitary. A nod to estranged kin. They decided on a compromise, a quiet holiday in the Catskills. A cabin rented on impulse. Far from prying eyes. The drive upstate was a bomb. Leaves ablaze in crimson and gold. Kate's playlist filling the car with indie folk that matched the rolling hills. At the cabin, wood-paneled and cozy, they unpacked with laughter. Kate burning the first attempt at pie crust while Beth salvaged it with practiced hands. Evenings by the fireplace became ritual. Flames dancing as they shared stories of holidays past. Kate recounted awkward Thanksgivings dodging questions about boyfriends. Beth confessed to performative toasts masking her ache. Wine loosened tongues. Leading to truths bared in the firelight, fears of impermanence. The prejudice that lingered even in progressive circles. Whispers of a phase or midlife crisis. Kate's hand trembled in Beth's. Do you ever think I'm just rebounding from my own chaos? Beth cupped her face. Eyes steady. No. You're the clarity in mine. Their kiss was salt-tinged. Born of gratitude. Bodies yielding to the night's embrace. But the idol fractured on a hike. Mist rolling in like uninvited guests. They argued over pace. Kate's impatience clashing with Beth's caution. Words escalating to the unspoken, the age chasm. Kate's wanderlust versus Beth's rootedness. You treat me like I'm fragile, Kate snapped. Breath visible in the chill. Because the world will try to break you, Beth retorted. Regret immediate. Silence stretched. Broken only by their footsteps crunching leaves. At the overlook. Vista sprawling. Kate turned. Tears glistening. I'm sorry. I need this to be real. Beth pulled her close. Apologies murmured into hair. The fight a scar that deepened their bond. Back in the city. The contrast jarred. Holiday lights twinkled mockingly as they navigated crowds. Hands linked defiantly. Beth's firm holiday party loomed. A glittering affair at the plaza where colleagues would dissect her companion. Come with me, she urged Kate one night. Vulnerability raw. Kate agreed, though nerves flickered in her eyes. The night arrived in a whirl of velvet gowns and crystal flutes. Kate shone in a simple black dress, her wit disarming skeptics. But whispers followed. Who's the arm candy? Beth's grip tightened. A shield. Midway, in a powder room alcove, Kate leaned in. They're staring. Beth met her gaze. Let them see. Yet the stares accumulated. A weight that pressed. A senior partner cornered Beth later. Bourbon breath heavy. Careful. Harper. Optics matter. The words festered, fueling a late-night spiral where Beth paced. Kate watching from the bed. He's right, Beth said finally. Voice breaking. This could cost me everything. Kate rose. Fierce. Then fight for us like you fight in court. The plea hung. A challenge. And Beth nodded. Resolve hardening. But sleep evaded. The nights are slipping through fingers like sand. January's bite sharpened the edges of the city, frost-etching windows as Beth and Kate settled into a fragile equilibrium. Beth threw herself into the merger's final push, late nights blurring into dawn, while Kate chased leads on an investigative piece about housing discrimination in queer communities. Their stolen moments pieced together a mosaic, hurried breakfasts with shared sections of the Times, walks in Washington Square where pigeons scattered like judgments. But the partner's warning echoed. A specter in board meetings where eyes lingered too long on Beth's ringless finger. One frigid Tuesday, Kate burst into Beth's office unannounced. Cheeks flushed from the wind. A manila envelope clutched like a trophy. They bid on the pitch, she announced. Voice bubbling. Beth rose, pulling her into a hug that defied the glass walls. That's incredible. They celebrated with dim sum in Chinatown. Steam rising from bamboo baskets as Kate outlined her angles. Eyes alight. Beth watched, heart swelling with a pride that bordered on ache, knowing this fire might one day outpace her own steady burn. You'll kill it, she said, squeezing Kate's hand under the table, the warmth a bulwark against the chill seeping in. The piece published mid-month. A raw exposé that rippled through social feeds and editorial pages. Congratulations poured in. But so did vitriol. Anonymous comments slicing at Kate's credibility, dredging up her age and personal biases. She brushed it off in public. But at home, over herbal tea as snow dusted the sill, her facade cracked. They don't get it, she whispered, cup trembling. It's not bias. It's lived truth. Beth held her, rocking gently, murmuring affirmations until sobs subsided into sniffles. That night, their lovemaking was fierce. A reclamation. Bodies asserting what words could not against the onslaught. Beth's own battlefield intensified. The merger closed successfully. Champagne popped in the conference room. But accolades came with side glances. Murmurs about her distraction. Her sister called, voice laced with faux concern. Mom heard rumors. Is it serious? She's worried about the family image. Beth's grip whitened on the receiver. The old scripts replaying, duty over desire. Propriety over pulse. She deflected. But the call lingered. A thorn. When she shared it with Kate over pizza in the village, the younger woman's face darkened. Family image? Screw that. You're more than their poster child. Tension crested at a weekend retreat in the Hamptons. A firmed team-building escape that Beth had dreaded. Kate insisted on tagging along, renting a convertible for the drive, wind-whipping hair as they blasted classic rock. The estate was sprawling. Manicured lawns mocking urban grit. Colleagues mingling with spouses in khakis and pearls. Kate fit uneasily. Her jeans and boots a statement amid the pastels. But she charmed with stories, drawing laughs from the skeptics. Beth watched from the sidelines, torn between relief and rage at the scrutiny. Evening bonfire crackled. Marshmallows toasting as wine flowed. A junior associate, emboldened by Merlot, sidled up to Beth. So, Kate's your muse? The word dripped condescension. And Beth's retort was ice. She's my partner. The circle hushed. Eyes darting. And later? In their guest room. Kate paced. Fury simmering. They look at me like I'm a phase. Beth pulled her down. Frustration mirroring. It's not you. It's them. They're narrow worlds. But doubt crept in. Whispers of incompatibility. The years yawning like chasms. They argued in hushed tones. Accusations flying, Beth's caution as control. Kate's boldness as recklessness. Maybe we're fooling ourselves, Kate said. Voice small. And Beth's heart fractured. Reconciliation came at dawn. Waves crashing below the bluff as they walked the beach. Barefoot in the surf. Salt-stung eyes already raw from tears. I don't want to lose this, Beth confessed. Sand shifting underfoot. Kate stopped. Turning. Her expression a storm clearing. Then don't let them win. They kissed with salt on lips. The ocean's roar drowning doubts. Hands linking as they traced shells back to the house. The rest of the weekend passed in armed truce. Beth deflecting probes with steel. Kate's wood a shield. Back in the city. Spring teased with erratic warmth. Tulips pushing through concrete. Kate's article spawned invitations, panels. Podcasts. A budding network that pulled her toward conferences. Beth supported. Masking envy at the freedom. Her own career a gilded cage. One night. After Kate returned from a queer-lit reading in Brooklyn. Buzzing with connections. She collapsed beside Beth on the couch. It's exhilarating. Scary. Beth nodded. Tracing patterns on her arm. You deserve it all. But inside. A whisper grew, was she holding Kate back? An anchor to stability Kate hadn't chosen? The breaking point arrived unannounced. A rainy April evening when Beth's firm announced promotions. Hers was among them. Partner track solidified. But laced with a caveat meeting. The managing partner. Across his oak desk. Steepled fingers. Impressive work. Beth. But personal matters. They can cloud judgment. Discretion is key. The implication hung. A noose of prejudice. She left numb. Hailing a cab to Kate's tiny walk-up in the East Village. A space cluttered with drafts and dreams. Kate opened the door in sweats. Concern etching her face. What happened? Over cold beer on the fire escape. Rain pattering the metal. Beth unloaded. The words pouring like the downpour. They think you're a liability. Kate's jaw set. Hurt flashing. And you? Do you? The question pierced. Forcing truths. No. But it makes me question if I can protect you from this. Kate stood. Voice rising despite the storm. I don't need protecting. I need you to fight with me. Not for me. The argument escalated. Years of baggage surfacing, Beth's fear rooted in past rejections. Kate's in abandonment. Maybe the gap's too wide, Kate said finally. Tears mingling with rain. Maybe we're just borrowing time. Beth recoiled. The words a gut punch. Is that what you want? To walk? Kate shook her head. Anguished. I don't know. I feel us slipping. They parted that night. Beth retreating to her sterile expanse. Kate to her chaos. Days stretched into a void. Texts unanswered. The city a blur of indifferent bustle. Beth threw herself into work. Winning a settlement that should have thrilled. But tasted ash. Kate's byline appeared in a national outlet. A triumph shadowed by silence. A week in. Beth cracked. Showing up at Kate's reading in a crowded bookstore on Bleecker. Heart hammering. Kate was mid-sentence. Voice steady on stage. But her eyes found Beth's in the back row. Faltering. Afterward. In the alley behind. Crates of unsold books as witnesses. They collided. I miss you, Beth breathed. And Kate surged forward. Kiss desperate. Me too. God. This hurts. They talked for hours. Rain-slicked and raw. Acknowledging the prejudices not just external. But internal, Beth's internalized shame. Kate's fear of settling. We bridge it, Kate said. Resolute. Together. Renewal sparked tentative. A dinner at their village haunt. Hands tentative across the table. Laughter returned. Halting. Then full. But the world intruded anew, Beth's promotion formalized. Whispers quelled by her unyielding presence. Kate's profile rising with offers that tempted relocation. Over Memorial Day weekend in the Berkshires. Hills greening. They hiked trails fragrant with pine. Pausing at overlooks to voice futures. What if I take the DC gig? Kate asked. Voice laced with thrill and terror. Beth swallowed. Envisioning empty nights. Then we make it work. Long distance. Weekends. Whatever it takes. Nights in the inn were fevered. Bodies reaffirming vows unspoken. Sighs echoing off beamed ceilings. Yet dawn brought clarity's edge. The age divide a specter in quiet moments. Beth caught Kate studying her in the mirror. Expression unreadable. What? She prompted softly. Kate turned. Honest. Just wondering if I'm enough for the long haul. Beth crossed the room. Cupping her face. You're everything. The words bridged. For now. But the undercurrent pulled. Testing depths. Summer sweltered in. Humidity clinging like unresolved tension. They navigated with care, Beth clearing dockets for Kate's events. Kate tempering ambition for shared sunsets on the High Line. A beach trip to Fire Island. Queer haven amid dunes. Offered respite. Bodies bronzed and free. But even there. Elders eyed their pairing. Murmurs of trophy stinging. Kate overheard. Storming off to the surf. Waves crashing her fury. Beth followed. Salt spray stinging. Don't let them, she urged. Arms encircling. Kate leaned back. Spent. It's exhausting. The exhaustion accumulated. A slow erosion. Late July. After a gala where Beth networked and Kate mingled. They cabbed home in silence. The city's pulse mocking. We're drifting, Kate said finally. Voice small. Beth's heart seized. No. We're building. But doubt festered. The nights ours fraying at seams. August's heat wave baked the asphalt. Mirages dancing as Beth and Kate sought refuge in the Adirondacks. A last-ditch cabin escape before Kate's DC interview. The drive was strained. Radio filling voids. Lakeside pines a fleeting green blur. At the dock. They rented a canoe. Paddles dipping in sync at first. Then faltering as conversation lagged. Tell me you're not regretting this, Beth said. Voice cutting the lap of water. Kate paused. Or still. I regret the hurt. Not us. They beached on a rocky shore. Unpacking lunch amid wildflowers. Words tumbling, fears of dilution. The prejudice that age invoked not just scorn. But self-doubt. Afternoons blurred into swims. Cold water shocking senses awake. Evenings with books by lantern light. Kate read aloud from Audre Lorde. Voice weaving empowerment. Beth's head in her lap. Fingers combing hair. One night. Stars pricking the velvet sky. They lay on a blanket. Meteor shower streaking. Make a wish, Kate murmured. Beth closed eyes. For nights like this. Endless. Kate's hand found hers. Squeeze conveying depths. Lovemaking followed. Urgent and slow. Earth yielding beneath. Sighs merging with cricket chorus. Dawn found them tangled. Resolve renewed. But the interview loomed. A crossroads. Back in Manhattan. The decision crystallized. Kate aced the interview. Offer gleaming, staff writer. Stability beckoning. Celebration dinner at Gramercy Tavern devolved into dissection. Forks pushing peas. It's a chance to grow, Kate insisted. Eyes pleading understanding. Beth nodded. Throat tight. I know. And I'll visit. We'll video every night. But the concession tasted bitter. The gap widening not just miles. But miles of unspoken loss. Kate moved mid-September. Boxes a blur. Beth helping load the truck. throat burning with unshed tears. "This isn't goodbye," Kate whispered at the curb. "Kiss fierce." Beth clung. "It's see you soon." Distance stretched like taffy. Calls bridging but not mending. Beth's days filled with trials. Victories hollow without Kate's debriefs. Kate thrived. Articles flowing. But confessed loneliness in late-night whispers. Holidays fractured, Beth in the suburbs. Performative smiles, Kate with new colleagues. Awkward cheer. New Year's Eve found them on split screens. Confetti virtual. Toast slurring promises. Spring brought visits. Deceased monuments stark against their intimacy. Hotel nights fevered compensations. But cracks spiderwebbed, missed flights. Work eclipses. The slow poison of separation. May's bloom coincided with crisis. Beth's mother fell ill. A stroke felling the matriarch who had always disapproved quietly. Beth flew to the hospital in Boston. Sterile halls echoing regrets. Kate drove up. Arriving disheveled. Her presence a lifeline. In the waiting room. Hands clasped. They faced the family gauntlet, sibling stares. Aunts veiled barbs about that friend. Beth's voice steadied. "She's my partner." Silence fell. Heavy. Then her sister's nod. Tentative bridge. Kate's support anchored. Her article on caregiving resonating in hushed talks. Recovery pulled Beth eastward. Weeks in Boston blurring care and confession. Kate visited weekends. The 3-hour drive a testament. One rainy afternoon. In the hospice garden. Mist cloaking roses. Beth broke. "I can't do distance anymore. It's killing us." Kate's eyes welled. "Then come back with me. Or I quit." The ultimatum hung. But morphed into mutual vow, Kate negotiating remote. Beth eyeing Boston firms. Compromise emerged. A hybrid life, Kate basing in D.C. Beth splitting time. Roots tentative but twining. Summer solstice marked pivot. A ceremony in Fire Island they crafted, friends circled bonfire. Vows exchanged not in legalese but lyric. "I choose you." Gaps and all, Beth said. Ring simple gold. Kate's response, "Night's ours." Prejudices be damned. Laughter rippled. Tears salting sand. The year unfurled an adaptation, Beth's transfer to a hybrid role. Kate's columns syndicated. Visits weaving a new tapestry. Challenges persisted. Societal side-eyes in groceries. Family dinners laced with progress and pushback. But they met them entwined. Breath sinking. October harvest moon found them in the Catskills again. Cabin familiar. Leaves a riot. Over cider by fire. Reflections flowed. "We almost lost this," Kate said. Head on Beth's shoulder. Beth kissed her temple. "But we didn't. We broke the walls." Sighs mingled. Peaceful. The crackle underscoring quiet strength. Bed claimed them. Bodies knowing paths worn deep. Touches affirming endurance. Winter's hush descended. Snow blanketing Central Park during a stolen weekend. They skated. Wobbly and giggling. Falls caught in arms. Cafe cocoa warmed palms. Steam fogging glasses plans solidified, a joint purchase. A brownstone in Brooklyn. Space for notebooks and briefs. Doubts lingered. Whispers of time's theft. But louder sang resilience. Kate's book deal arrived. Memoir of Love's Defiance, Beth mentored juniors on authenticity. Her voice steady. Spring equinox donned pink. Them on the stoop of their new home. Boxes unpacked. Paint fresh. Kate unfurled a banner, "Our night begins." Beth pulled her close. Laugh bubbling. And days too. Inside. Amid chaos. They danced to no music. Steps sinking. The world's prejudices distant echoes. Age forgotten. Nights theirs. A life woven from threads of courage and care. Years later. At a reading for Kate's book. Spotlights warm. Beth in front row. Pride undimmed. Applause faded. Kate dedicated, "To the woman who taught me love ignores calendars." Eyes met across the room. Depth unspoken. The humanistic chord resonating, in breaking biases. They found wholeness. A testament that connection defies measure. Leaving echoes of grace in quiet hearts.